So welcome back to another Beangas video. We can be going, let's switch it up, going back to the Universal video days when we make some Universal content. We're gonna be making every single ride in Florida ranked. I think it's like 41, I want to say. I didn't do the proof count before, but we'll just be going through in order. First, I hear we have the Trolley Express. I mean, there's not much to say about it. It's just a way to get between each park. So I think that it's not much of a ride. I just put it in here just because I feel like you could technically classify it as a ride, but it's really just a transportation method way to get to the two parks. There's no obscure movements. There's nothing. It's basically just riding a normal train with just screens that play like you're in the Harry Potter world. That is the only things that come from this ride. It's not really a ride, like I said before. I mean, I think it's a cool element. Don't get me wrong. Like I think whenever you use these elements to make your park more like the world that you're supposed to be inside. It just makes more of the world more immersive. So I think it's a really good element. I'm not me putting it at 41 doesn't mean I think it's doo doo and that they should get rid of it. I'm just saying like in terms as a ride, I think that it should stay at the bottom just because if you like going on there purely with the mind of I'm gonna use it as something to have fun with, I mean, you might as well just write anything else, just because it's not the longest. You're really not getting much. It's really just a scenery. That's basically the entire ride. So yeah, I think that last will have to go to the Trolley Express, just because it's not really a ride to begin with. Excuse me. So it makes it really hard for it to actually even have ride qualities that will make it really great. Yes, sir. Now going on here to the next ride we have here is the Simpsons small ride here. And look, I think it's just something that you could see at a regional park. Like this is not something where if I'm going to a Universal Park, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to ride this ride because it's just there's not much spectacular aspects to the ride. It's just something where you're just getting on it, maybe just because either you have a child with you and they really want to get on it, or you don't want to wait that long, or you just want to ride something, or you just want to ride it once at least just to get see how it is. So I think that it's really hard for this ride to be successful either way because you see how much land it takes up. Like it basically takes up nothing. Like this is really all they could put here. But like I said before, I'm not really classifying as I'm gonna grade this ride on this, and this based on well, what could it do with this and this. I'm basing it on if I'm going to a Universal Park and I see all these rides open, which rides am I wanting to ride instead of which rides do I not want to ride? These are one of the ones where like you just probably just won't want to ride when it comes down to it. If there's nothing against the ride, it's just that it's a ride that you could probably see at a regional theme park. Next right here we have Peloton Flyers. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been on this, but just watching the clips, I mean, if it's massive swing set that just makes you go around. I mean, I think the scenery could be really cool, but I think the fact that you need a kid to go on with you should tell you that it's not really gonna get too intense, which is good. I feel like it shouldn't be intense, especially what its purpose is. But this is also something that I feel like if this was somewhere like in Epic Universe where this like the entire world scenery has gone like substantially better. I feel like it would be one of like maybe an amazing ride. Don't get me wrong, the views and things are still really nice. But I feel like if you were able to put this like let's say in like Isle of Berg and go around Isle of Berg like this, I think this would have been something that would have been amazing. But since it's just like a little kids ride, I think it's all right. I mean, not much you can really say about it other than that, but I think it's a cool ride. Heading on to the next ride here, um, we have Dr. Seuss, the Cat in the Hat. Now, this ride in recent time has been very much so. The best way to say is melted down. Like so many elements of it have just been stripped down just to make it work in recent times where I feel like this ride has just continue to get worse and worse and worse. I think it's one of those things where the quality has just Excuse me. The quality has just really dropped off when it comes to this ride, and I just feel like it's not something that it can be rated that highly just because of that. Like when I'm looking at a Universal theme park, I'm expecting there to be like things that I've never seen before, slash amazing ride, smoothest elements, and all that good stuff. And this ride just doesn't have any of that. Perhaps it did back when they opened, but these rides are getting really old. I wouldn't be surprised if changes are coming to them in the near future. I mean, I can see why they want to keep this element of the park because, as much as I may say the Universal parks are great, the huge aspect with them that is probably their biggest weakness is how well do they, how well do they, how well do they entertain the kids? Because there's a lot of these rides where kids are just not going to get on because they're too big, too scary, and these are the rides that they will get on, but I said before, things has been getting really outdated. They push it to the back burner for so long, so the rice has been consistently melting down into a shell of its former self. Next here, we're going for another ride that's just, I mean, not much more to say. It's the carousel. Like, not much more I can really say other than the fact it's just that. Like, whenever I'm going to a Universal Park, like I said before, I'm not going to ride this. You're not going to ride some of these rides at the lower end just because you can maybe see one of these at a regional theme park. There is almost no point. But other than that, I mean, I feel it's well designed. It matches up with the element of the land pretty well. So I feel like that's some plus points for it. Plus, I mean, I said before, we're not all children, so there's perhaps children that really enjoy this ride. So yeah, going on next year is everybody's favorite is Fast and the Furious. It's gonna close down. I was even debating if putting it on the list just because it's probably the most recent ride other than Rip Ride Rockets announced it's getting closed recently. But you know, all the you can literally go on YouTube and search a why is Fast and Furious a bad ride, and you'll get so many suggestions. Just to keep it brief and simple here, it's just really the ride system is not really that great. There's a lot of like things that are wonky about it. Well, why we're in a bus, like when it comes to Fast and Furious, the thing about being fast and we're in a bus, there's a lot of like parts of it that are just seen as bad. Like I know at some points Dom Toretto's as big as a helicopter, unrealistic parts, but like there's like the smoke that comes from it is so loud and it's just genuinely not a pleasant experience whatsoever. There's not really any thrill parts, and there's like not really much like of Fast and Furious going on. It feels like, so yeah. Next ride. It's another carousel. I think the one at Epic Universe is just designed better in my opinion. So I think I just like it more. It just looks aesthetically better. It just rides better. This is something that just I think it's just better in every format than the other one. So I think that this is something that I would say is better than that, and I think the reason it's over Fast and Furious is like I said before, it's just now in these present times it just looks really really well. Like at nighttime, this ride looks gorgeous. So I think you know if you're ending your day and you just want something relaxing to go hop on, then I think this is something perfect for you to do. Next ride. We have a new troll coaster. I think that when it comes to these kid coasters, I feel like I'm a little biased just because I'm grown, so I'm not gonna like this stuff. But when it comes to this stuff, I think it's just super super similar to something I could find at a regional theme park. So what is the point in me going to a Universal to ride this stuff? Like, I get it. You need your parks to be more family friendly, but like I said, I just feel like it's too close to being a regional theme park thing where I just can't rate it that high. It's almost the same thing as Flight Hippogriff. That's why I've ranked them so closely together. I think it's you could use the exact same argument for it. It's just I feel like this one's just a little bit more. I think this one's a better just because of the fact that it's just bigger and it's within the land. I feel like better. it has an actual story behind it, so I feel like it's a better ride. But I mean, it's one spot higher. Like I just think it's another one of those things where it's how how different can something really be to be classified as a great ride? That I just don't know because these rides are just seen so much attention. These other rides where you go to these rides, I get it. You don't have the much space. You can't create an elite like ride lineup here. And I said it before. You need bad rides in order to make the good rides look great. So it's not something where it's Five Hypocrites' fault. It's just I can't really rank this ride that high just because of what it is. Next ride here we have the teapots the from Storm. The only reason I had this higher than the other two is just I feel like if you're going on this, goddamn, if you're going on this like two friends or someone else that like really enjoys it, I feel like you could have a fun time just messing around more than one of the other coasters, like small coasters. I feel like that's the only reason why. It's just that you yourself can make it a really fun time. But other than that, I mean, there's not much special. It's just another form of a teacup ride. It's just Storm instead. I mean, it has a story, but like there's minimal theming. This is something you'll see like at Six Flags or something else like that. Not really something too crazy when it comes to that aspect of it. Like I said before, it's something that if you and your friends are, in that mood, you can just have a really fun time with it and create a good memory. And I think this is a decent spot for it. All right, going on here to the next ride, we got the nice little storybook: Redfish, Two Fish, Bluefish, 38 Fish. Bo next to the Great Quarterback Fish. So you got a lot of fish. This is just something else that's just another nice little chill ride. It's a nice little ride that I can't really say too much about already, just because it does its purpose. It serves as a nice little ride. You can get wet if you don't listen to the commands of the fish. Has a nice little storytelling element, but there's not much I could really say about a ride like this. So yeah, like that is the most I can say is that it just does the job well. Has a good storytelling element. It can be fun, because you got to listen to the fish commands, or else you're gonna get wet. You ain't trying to get wet, so it's something that can be entertaining. But like I said before, it's not something you're going to a Universal Park for. It's just not. Now heading on here to the next ride, we have the the last of the swoosh rides here, which is the trolley. And I think the reason I placed this above the other ones is just because of the view you get. The view is amazing. Seeing this park from afar, seeing the massive coasters. I think it's something. God, excuse me, but it's something that I just feel like it's really nice to look at. You're always riding these rides, but you don't really get to see what it looks like from afar. So I think this is something that gives you a great view, gives you a nice little pause, lets you really enjoy the aspect of the park, really lets you set in that you're on vacation. I will say that's the main criticism with theme parks is a lot of the time, theme parks you're still on a timetable, whereas you're supposed to be on vacation. But it's a ride that slows the day down for you. Lets you really breathe in the fresh air and lets you enjoy the park. And I think it's something that's very underrated. You know, that's why the shows exist. It gives you a break because you are on vacation, but these parks, they be wearing you out sometimes. So I think this is something that is great for the park, and am like I've written this as just a way to just breathe in the fresh air, get a bit of time to get off your feet, and yeah, I think this is something that should just stay in the park. No, by means it's not an all-world beater ride, but it's something that I feel like these type of things when you do the little things right that really makes you successful. And I feel like this is one of those little things that is done right. Heading into the next ride here, which will be Fire Drill. I think this is something else that's just another ride where it's a lot like the Redfish ride where it's something that you're just trying to have fun with. It's not really something where you're really expecting too much out of the ride. And I feel like it's just almost the same thing where it does what it's supposed to do. You know, you do the little things right on these type of rides, and it turns out to be a really great ride. You know, it's a fun little aspect of the ride. You know, you got to shoot out this water at these targets. You know, it gives you something to do. You know, it's something that is engaging. The overall theming with this is really great. You know, it's not something that you would expect out of one of the, let's just call them like blue chip rides where you're expecting like something new. But like I've said, you can't have everything in the park be amazing just because nothing will be amazing then. So when it comes down to these little rides, I think your job is to try to make a cheap ride fun. And I think that's exactly what they did here. I think it's a great ride. So heading on next here, heading into Yoshi Adventure Ride. I think this is something that, again, it's another ride that you sit on and enjoy the view. And I think the reason why I put this over the trolley one is just because the view here I think might be even better because you get this and amazing immersive world. You get that little dude sticking out his tongue at you. Like, well, what gets better than that? But like, you get this really immersive world of Mario, and I think that's something that you can't take from anywhere other ride just because Mario Kart you're inside and Donkey Kong you're probably going too fast to even really be able to capture it. So I feel like this is one of those rides where you're looking at it and it's just something that you just are able to take in the world, really thank not thank per se, but really get to see what's going on and really see what how hard these people worked on these worlds to make it so immersive. Heading on to the next ride here, we have um I think Minion Blast. I think I'm a defender of this ride. I get the aspect of don't really want to stand when it comes to rides. Like you've been standing in line for like 30 to an hour already, and then you're telling me the thing I was waiting for, I'm gonna have to stand for it again. I understand that aspect of it. That's not something enjoyable, but I feel like if you get past that, I feel like this is a ride that is still an enjoyable ride. You know, I think the room is still really cool, so you're getting a good break from the hot Orlando sun, and it's something that, in my personal opinion, has been enjoyable. I mean, maybe it's just someone because I like video games, but you know, when it comes to that shooting aspect, it's something that I enjoy doing. But I think this ride has been criticized over and over just because I feel like people thought that they were just like creativity, which I think that I can see where they're coming from, but looking at it through another lens, there's not much you could have really done with this building, um, other than this, and let's make another like movie theater, almost like they did like with Shrek, and like what's really already next door. I think they're just trying to make something different, and I think, in my personal opinion, I think they succeeded at making something that was entertaining and different. I get the aspect of standing isn't great. That's why it's probably a lot lower, but I think once you get past that part, it's something. It's a ride that is enjoyable. Next ride here we have the flying challenge of Augsburg. I think this is just another one of those rides where it's just a chill ride. I know you can do some spins, so it could get a bit exciting, but this is something I just feel like this is another ride where it just lets you survey the land. And like I said, I think I give this the advantage because I think Augsburg is the best looking land in the entire park. So when it comes to that, I would give it to that. Plus, there is the added elements of you being on a dragon and being able to do these maneuvers, and so it adds a bit of thrill to the ride, whereas you really wouldn't get that with something else. So when it comes down to it, I feel like this is a ride that is great when it comes to those aspects. I think for what it was designed to do, it does a really good job at it, and it's something that could be thrilling and be enjoyed by all ages. I think we're starting to get to that point where we're starting to move away from, you know, I'm either getting on this ride because I'm little or just to get on a ride. I think we're starting to head into that. Everybody should be riding these rides. Now, heading on to the next ride here, we have Men in Black Alien Attack. I would say that this ride is good, not particularly a universal good though. I think I think we've gone to the point where these rides are all starting to get good, where any single one of them is enjoyable any time of the day. But when it comes to the rides that these universal parks are known for, what they can produce, I don't think this is one of them. I think it's a good ride. I think it's something that you can have fun with, but I feel like there's not really much to the ride. You know, it's you're sitting down shooting at these targets, which, in my personal opinion, I feel like maybe I just suck and can't shoot, but it's been inconsistent at times because you really don't know what to do at points. It feels like. I mean, I think the giant red button at the end that's a plus for me. I think that's in a fun way to try to beat everybody you go with to the score, or just some random people. I think that's a plus element to it. I think the spinning around cards adds a bit of that factor with the thrill. But overall, I would say good, but it doesn't really have any great qualities. That's why I really can't put it too high. Heading on to the next ride here, we have Doom, Fearfall Tower. I think this is another ride that's underrated. I feel like you can really have a great time with this ride. You something that, like I said before, allows you to see the beautiful view of the Orlando Park. Something that you really won't get to see from much other things. But I think that the way this ride works is not just a straight fall. It bounces you up and down. It gives you rest points, so you actually can enjoy it. But it gives you that thrill factor of when you're first going up, you like feel it um within your stomach or within other things, and when you drop, you feel it again. So it provides that thrill factor that I feel like not many rides would can provide when they're that small. And yeah, like when you look at this, this is probably the smallest venue for a ride. I would want to say. But I think that what it does is great. It has a storytelling element. The building is overall decent. I will say it is a little like a little regional theme park ride, but overall I think it's good. Yes, sir. Heading into the next ride here, we have ET. I think this is a ride that is. I see it as something that I'm thankful that they decided to keep in the park for all this time. It is a old ride. It's the oldest ride at the park. Actually, it's the only ride still there from opening day. So you really can't head into ET and expect to be blown away. That's just you're just judging it wrong at that point. So I think I'm heading into ET just to see a classical feel, almost. Experience how the parks used to be. It's almost like a mini time machine for the Universal parks. That's what I think what makes it so great. I think that when watching when going through this ride, I feel like it's something that I enjoy a lot. Um, this ride's also, for even then, even being old, it still has elements that are really great. Flying over with the bikes at that point, flying over the car. That's a climax of the ride. That's a really entertaining part of it. I think this is something that you can still really enjoy. I think even when you get to ET's home world and you see all these animatronics and you see all these different things going on, you just see all these beautiful visual sights that I feel like this is, I'm not gonna say underrated, just because it is still a popular ride, but underappreciated, I would say, as I think keeping this classical ride system and ride elements, I feel like like I said, it's its own personal universal time machine. Now heading on here to the next ride, we have Simpsons, which will has a speculation of being closed in the future. We'll see, but I think my only qualm with this ride is I feels like the more you ride it, the less you like it. Which I feel like I guess it's kind of true for any ride. Like after you experience something, it's like, can you really experience something more than once? That type of question. But going to the actual ride itself, I feel like it's great. The motion simulator, I feel like it does not cause so much dizziness. I feel like the entire ride's funny. You get great aspects of the ride. You get great thrill factors of the ride. Like the ending part, heading down that massive thing. Like you actually feel something. Now, there is times when this ride can maybe feel a little bit stale. Maybe it feels like they're trying to force things in. the ride, but I feel like they really made it well for what the Simpsons show is, and I feel like when you go into the ride, I feel like you can really believe this to be a Simpsons episode. It really feels like you're inside of the world of it. So that using those aspects, I feel like this is a ride that is good. Like I said, the only qualm with this, I feel like it suffers the most from after you've ridden it once. It just feels like it just gets worse and worse and worse every time you ride it. But I mean, it's still a fun ride. Don't get me wrong. You know, it goes from being an amazing ride to fun. I mean, good to fun. Like it doesn't like go to bad at any point of that transition. But yeah, next ride here, we have Mario Kart, one of the newer rides at Epic Universe. I think that this ride is great because of the augmented reality system. I feel like you get to really interact with Mario. I feel like they did a great job with that. You actually being able to shoot turtle shells. You don't really get to control the car too much, and that's a massive part of Mario Kart that I feel like it would just been really really hard for them to do either way. So I feel like that is a downside, just because, especially being an Epic Universe ride, where it's kind of starting to get to a point where you can just expect anything that they can do nowadays. But the ride doesn't really have too much motion, but I feel like the augmented reality does a good job of making you feel like you do. Like just because the ride doesn't move too crazy, it doesn't mean that the ride feels stale. You still feel like you can actually moving through the system without, like, if you were to look at it from the outside, you're like, these people are barely moving at all. It doesn't really feel like that when you're on the ride. So I give that a huge plus. Then that plus I do with the augmented reality, these lands actually look great. You know the looking at the entire aspect of the world, the immersiveness of it. There we go. The immersive of the ride system blended in with the augmented reality, but really makes it come to life. I feel so. I think that's a huge plus. I think you may be a little disappointed just because of not how intense it is, but you know, you take some, you lose some. I feel like this is a ride that is a plus ride, not the best one at Epic Universe, I would say, but it's a ride that I enjoyed. Um, if you were to tell me the aspects, like the like numbers of the ride, like how fast it goes, all that stuff, I'll tell you I'm probably not someone who's gonna enjoy it, and I still did. So that should tell you just how great the ride is. I'm heading into these next ride here. We have Kong. Um, you know, Kong. The queue is so great that the ride doesn't even matter at some points. The ending Kong and figure is so like spectacular visually to look at that it doesn't even matter really the ride. But actually going to the ride system, I think it's good. You know, you're using the same system as the Transformers one, but it feels so much more like able to get outside of it. You know, like you feel like you can actually able to interact with the actual world. It feels with the Fast and Furious ride, it feels like you're just going in a straight line the entire time. Whereas this ride, you know, you're hanging from vines, you're getting pushed around by dinosaurs, Kong is carrying you. There's so many different aspects that can happen. Plus, the storytelling of this ride is one of the best ones at the theme park. So that's a huge plus for it. I think that this is, like I said before, the queue, the ending of this ride are top notch. You won't get better than it. It's like really hard for other things to part. Like I feel like the queue was probably the best queue until Epic Universe came along, and that's probably because Epic Universe had so much design liberties to take. So it was a lot easier for them to actually build a queue. But like I said before, this is something that is a really great ride. Even going inside the ride itself, fun, interactive, and the queue, like I said before, and the ending part is just amazing, amazing. So going on to the next ride here, you know, shout out earlier Beangas days, Jimmy Fallon. You know, if you want a full in-depth breakdown of this ride, you know, there is a video that we've made, why Jimmy Fallon is an underrated ride. Just to get into a little brief of it, I feel like it's an entertaining simulator. You know, I feel like they aspect it really well with Jimmy Fallon and New York City. I feel like it's something where there's not a dull moment during the ride. I feel like the ride present building is great. You know, I've been over this. It's one of the better ride buildings in my personal opinion. Even though you won't even consider it, just because when you're thinking about Universal, you think about these like fantasy worlds, not really Jimmy Fallon. So I feel like that is what kind of makes it feel bad. But once you get out of that like system of thought, I feel like it's a ride that is actually underrated. I feel like they used like the ride system to the max they could. I feel like they could not have done better with this type of ride system. Now going on to the next ride here, we have Kong Minecart Madness. Now the funny thing about this ride is if you were to ask people what the most disappointing ride of Epic Universe was, they'll probably tell you this. And you know, I'm not to say it's bad, but the expectations for this ride were really big, and I feel like it did let down. I think it's two to three major problems. I think, well, the first major problem is the wait time for this ride. It's absurd all the time. But going into the second problem, it is a short ride. So you really wait so much time for like a minute 30. And then not only that, I think the third aspect, it has so many pauses. It feels like you're not ever getting a true roller coaster feel on that ride. I get that it's not really supposed to be one. It's supposed to like have all these interactive story elements, like you're supposed to be jumping from track to track, but I feel like the ride is just so short that it just can't really enjoy that element too much. And plus, like I've said, so many breaks, it never feels like you really pick up truly any speed. There's like a couple parts where you do, but other than that, you really just do not feel too many crazy points where this feels like a thriller of a ride. So heading into the next ride here, we have Curse of the Werewolf, which I think was probably I'm probably one of the most positive people in the world about this ride. I thought that it was great. I thought that you picked a good speed. The spinning element was something a lot better than I thought. I thought that when they first announced this ride, I thought that the spinning element was stupid. I think why would I want to spin during a roller coaster? That I feel like you're just trying things to just make something seem better than it is. But I'll give it to him. The spinning element ended up being something that was one of my favorite parts of the ride. It allowed you to interact with people, and plus, like I said before, I think you feel like you picked up a lot better speed than I thought you would on this ride. I think it was a great ride. It's probably my most underrated ride of the park. Heading into the next ride here, we have Escape from Gringotts. Now, I think we've gone to the point where every single ride here is amazing. There is very little qualms with these rides. I would wait 30 plus to an hour plus for a lot of these rides, if not all of them, because these rides are all amazing storytelling, amazing thrill factors, and amazing ride elements. And this one here is probably one of the biggest examples of that. My only qualm with this ride is I feel like you really don't get too much time with the thrill. I feel like there's only parts of it where it's a lot like Donkey Kong, where like it's a lot of pauses where I just don't feel like you can really have that if your ride is supposed to be a thrill ride. But I will say great storytelling. I think the screens blend in great with the ride. I don't think that's a problem. So I think this ride is one of those ones where it's one of the most immersive rides that there is, one of the best riding systems that there is. So I feel like I can't rate it much lower than this. I feel like, in my personal opinion, I think it was a little too low when looking at the list. But like I said, I just think that it doesn't stand out just because it does both things, the thrill factor and the immersive screen factor, well, but not great at points. So I feel like I couldn't just rate it too highly because of those factors. But other than that, I mean, it's a great ride. Heading into the next ride here, we have our first of the water rides, Rip Ride Saws. I think this is something where if you get on with two, three of your friends, it's just a great time all around. I think all water rides are really fun just because of the water element. You know, you're getting wet, you're feeling things. The ride is the story element of it's okay. I wouldn't really go world class. It's a typical damsel in distress story. So it's not anything that I would be like too crazy about. But it has its bright points. It's funny at points. But the main aspect of it is the drops, and I feel like when we get to that last drop, you really see why this is one of the more popular water rides in the world. I feel like every single aspect of this ride is great. Um, like I said before, if you're riding this with people that you're having fun with or that type of stuff, then it's just something that you can really enjoy. Like I said, like the water element just really adds factors to rides that can't really be explained with too much else saying. So I think that when going over this ride, like I said, great family ride. I don't think the drops are too scary, so I think this is a ride for everybody. And decent story element, fun aspect. The water just elevates it all. So that's all I'll say. Next ride here, we're getting into the other section of the water ride. I think the only reason I have this one higher is just I think it's could be more entertaining at times. I think when you're actually seeing the faces of those people that you're with, getting all wet, trying to get away from the water, it's something that's fun. Plus, I feel like I just like um, the this type of ride more, where we're going through these huge wave crashes. I personally like the story more too on this one. I feel like this it's a little bit more interactive. I feel like you know it was just a typical story. This is just a nice, goofy cartoon story. So I feel like the story is better in this one. I think like the water element is better in this one also just because you're actually able to see the people. Like for a fact that when you get wet, you're gonna get wet by the thing. Everybody's gonna get wet. Whereas this one, it's only parts of the boat that's gonna get wet. So I feel like that's a good factor of it. I think that makes it funner than the other one, especially if you're riding it with the right people. Now heading on here to the next ride, we have the last of the water rides. The reason I grouped them all together, I feel like they're all a lot similar. Um, the only thing I will say that I didn't say about the other two rides is these rides kind of do become unrideable at night, just because you're not trying to get wet at night. But I feel like that's something that doesn't really affect the overall ride quality. It's just something that it's just your like what you want to do. Like if it's someone who doesn't want to get wet, I understand, I guess, but I can't really like say that I'm gonna take this ride down just because somebody doesn't like that. And going on here to River Adventure, which actually is closed, they're refurbishing it finally. Which I'm actually really happy about because I rode this in 2019 for the first time when almost all the ride elements were working, and it's a great ride. You know, as much as people will say about the degrading qualities, I know I was beating it with the Cat in the Hat earlier, but this is a ride that it's dinosaurs. Like, there's not much more I could say than that. You're able to go around and see these dinosaurs, the animatronics, as as bad as they've been working recently, they're still amazing things to look at. And the story element is a great element of it too. And then like that last part where the climax of the ride, been taking all that time building up. You go face to face with T Rex to go under it and hit the huge splash. I think that's just one of the best climaxes you'll get out of any ride at Universal Park. Heading into the next ride here, we have Harry Potter Forbidden Journey. This is a ride where I feel like it sinks and raises on people's lists all the time. I feel like it's a ride where it's good. There's just certain aspects of it that hurt it a lot. I think the motion sickness is something real with this ride. I think it's probably the worst at any theme park. I don't really, I'm not really affected by it too much, but like I will say, out of any ride you ride at a Universal theme park, this one will probably give you the worst motion sickness because of like just how thrilling it feels while not being thrilling, while being thrilling, if that makes sense. But apart from that, I think this is a it's Harry Potter. It has great storytelling elements. You know, you're going through the world, you get to see a Quidditch match. You know, that's something that we didn't really get to see in the movies too much was Quidditch. So I think it's really fun that you get a little be a part of the action for a little bit. I think once you get into that cave section and it's just purely animatronics, that is a really, really great section of the ride. The animatronics are done beautifully. That section of it is amazing. The Whomping Willow when you're laying straight on your back. Like when you get to that section, it's just a really great ride. And like I said before, it is a thrilling ride. Like you will have thrill when it comes to this ride. So I think that makes it something that's very enjoyable. Now heading on here to the next ride, we have all right, heading on here to Harry Potter Ministry of Magic. I think this is a ride where was the most anticipated ride of the park, and I mean this in no disrespect to the actual ride itself. You know, when you go through the queue, it is amazing. When you go through the ride, it is amazing. It is the most advanced ride we've seen, as features mannequins, animatronics that we just have been the best that we've ever seen. But I will say that I think when it comes to expectations, for me it under delivered. Now don't shoot me, bro. Don't shoot me, because I might start shooting back. But that's a joke. That is a joke. That is a joke. But um, you know, why I think this underachieved was because I think it's a ride that it just didn't have much thrill. Now I understand thrill is not everything when it comes to a ride. There's a lot of rides that are amazing without thrill. This is one of the rides. But I think for me personally, when I'm ranking these rides, I feel like thrill might be the number one thing. Just because of how like it really gets you moving. There's not much other things on this planet that will affect you the way that thrill on roller coasters can. So I think that's the only thing I have with this ride. Other than that, the animatronics amazing. The storytelling element a little weird if you know Harry Potter, but it's still good. Um, I think that this is one of the like rides where you go to a Universal to see this. This is what Universal is all about: is making these amazing rides that you will not see anywhere else. You know, if somebody else try to make this ride, even if like I'm not trying to throw hate or anything, even if a Disney tried to make a ride like this, they just would not be able to. This is one of those rides where you just can't replicate it. It's a 101. It's something we've never seen before. It's something great, something that when I look at it through a telescope mirror, you just see pure beauty with it. Not to like keep ranting on how amazing it is, but it is a ride that it should be classified as one of the best. Now, me as someone who just holds thrill as the number one thing when it comes to these rides, I can't rank it inside the top five just because of the elements that I feel like these other rides have. Probably still a little nostalgia, but like I said, mainly thrill. Like if you'll see, you haven't really seen the roller coasters yet. That should tell you what you need to know about how poorly I think about thrill. All right. Heading into the next ride, we have Hulk. Now, I think Hulk is a good ride, but I feel like it kind of plateaus. I feel like it starts really, really well. The launch, the first couple minute, the first minute of this ride is one of the best things you'll have. But after that minute, I feel like it really does plateau. You know, you really get to a point where you're not really moving that much anymore. You're kind of just in stops and kind of going down these hills, getting a little, picking up a little bit of speed. Not to mention, too, I do not think the headrest is good at all. I think that the ride is really intense, so your neck is snapping back and forth. Between the two, you're hitting your neck a lot. Unless you want to strain yourself and hold your neck out, this is a ride that's just not comfortable whatsoever. It doesn't really have the smoothness of a couple other rides that will be further along in this list. That's why I feel like it's ranked a lot lower than. I mean, I'm not gonna say a lot. It's still in the top 10, but it's ranked lower than its other roller coaster friends other than like the ones that have already been mentioned today. So yeah, I like this is a great thrill ride. It's the one of the best roller coasters, damn right I say, in the world. But I feel like when it comes to universal aspects of rides, I think there's some key qualities that it's lacking in. Going to the next ride, we have Transformers here. I think this is a ride that I think it's a bit underrated. I feel like people see it as too similar to Spider-Man, so they want to bash it for that, which I understand. You really want your rides to like be their own entity, but when a ride system it is as great as Spider-Man's, I feel like it's something that you just can't really bash it for. The ride system it's Epic Universe is Hiccup's Wing Gliders. I thought it was going to be another one of these family coasters, which it is, but like kind of like um kind of like um the Trolls coaster, where it's not really too like much intensity. It's something you can really see at a regional theme park. Nothing too great, but man, was I blown away with this ride. I think this is the second best ride in Epic. No, well, it would be the third, but I think it's the third best ride in Epic Universe, and that's saying something considering the elite catalog that that park has. This is a ride that's Hagrid's but dimmed down a bit, but elevated still due to its natural scenery. I feel like you pick up great speed, you pick up the scenery of the beautiful Isle of Berk. The storytelling of it is great. Being able to warp through the land, I feel like just gives it so much immersiveness where you can't really find it anywhere else within it. I was talking earlier about Petrodron Flyers. Like if this ride was within Isle of Berk with the beautiful scenes that it has, it would be something great. And this is basically that, except put it with a Hagrid system, basically. So this ride, I feel like, is the most underrated ride of the theme park. When, if you ask me, I think this is an amazing, amazing ride. Now, heading into just shy of the top five, we have. All right, heading into the ride here, Monsters Unchained. This is another kind of clone ride system from Forbidden Journey, but I think like I was saying before, Forbidden Journey massive flaw was the motion sickness that you'll get from the ride. That does not exist with this ride. I feel like this ride is amazing when it comes to that aspect of it. But what I will say is this is probably the best a ride has looked at times. The animatronics on this ride are amazing. They look really lifelike. If you're talking about Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, any of these that you see throughout the ride, they all look amazing. Story element, great. Fear element, what is actually going on with the ride is great. I feel like there's a lot of disturbing parts that make you feel something, which is for what's supposed to be a horror ride. That's a great thing for it. I think it does the system better. I feel like the only qualm I have with it is I feel like you don't really get a moment where you feel like you're running away from these guys. I feel like you always feel like you just sit there and watching them do whatever they feel like doing to you, which I mean can feel a little dull. Not dull, but like it feels not as thrilling just because you know they're just you're just watching them just run around you. Like they don't really get to do too much interacting with the actual person within the cart. And a lot of that's because like the people are protecting you, so they're making sure you don't get eaten. But I feel like that's my only qualms when it comes to this ride. I feel like other than that, is a good ride. I feel like it doesn't really have much downsides to it. I think that it's something where it's a lot like Harry Potter, the newest one, Battle Ministry, where it's so many things that just look spectacular. Like these animatronics have been outdo anything from past rides, no matter what theme park we're talking about. It's just absolutely absurd level of detail that they were able to achieve with this ride. And this ride was probably the best ride in Epic Universe if we're not talking about thrill factors. this ride was unbelievable, unbelievable in every sense. The story element, the animatronics I've said before. Even though I said there wasn't much thrill, there is still thrill within the ride. There is so many things going on where it's just hard to even grasp what's at times, and I just feel like that's what shows it to be the incredible, incredible ride that it is. I feel like this ride and the next ride, which will be Spider-Man, it was such a close call for me. It was really hard, but going on a Spider-Man here, I think it's too iconic of a ride. I feel like, who doesn't love Spider? It's just way, way, way too iconic of a ride. I feel like the system, amazing, still holds up to this day. It got a rebrand recently, so that allowed it to keep up with the modern times. Well, when I say recently, I think I was like 10 years ago. Yeah, I think it's 10 years ago from today now. But it still allows it to keep up with it. It still allows it to keep up with these modern days. Never a dull moment in this ride. This is something that just absolutely, by every sense of the definition, embodies the ride system. The ride system is so well integrated into this ride. You really feel like you're able to interact with these villain characters. You're really able to feel like you're able to interact with Spider-Man. I feel like they did a great job writing Spider-Man. I feel like he feels like everything you would think that he would be. I think the only qualms I would have with this ride are I wish that would have a little bit more time with certain characters. I feel like you know they kind of just come in, get beat up instantly, and yeah, they're just done. So I feel like that's my only qualms when it comes to the ride. But even then, that's more of it's just a I would just want to see characters that I've seen on other platforms more. But like I said, I think this is just a ride that absolutely embodies every single aspect of what it means the ride system to be. This is something that is really, really great. I really do not see many screen rides being able to be above this. This is ranked the highest screen ride. I think, like I said before, though, Monsters Unchained and then, depending on the day you ask me, they could flip flop. Monsters Unchained is an amazing ride, but this is also amazing ride. Now heading into number quattro, we have Mummy. Now, I think I'm gonna keep Mummy a little brief just because you can't really see anything that's going on either. So you're not really gonna be able to see the ride system that much. But I think when we're looking riding Mummy, I think that it's a ride that is absolutely does everything that it's supposed to do plus more. I feel like it really, really uses the element of darkness really well. I think it does an amazing, amazing job. I think when you're looking at some of these rides, that's what they're really supposed to do is utilize these elements that they build up to their advantage. And I feel like Mummy absolutely embodies it perfectly. The queue, amazing. It already gets you in the mood. And then you get into the theming of this ride. It's great. You really feel like you're there. And when you get to this dark underground roller coaster system, it is so thrilling. It's not the thrilling by the most thrilling by the numbers, but if you look beyond the numbers and when you're actually riding in the system itself, you have no clue where it's going. It adds that level of thrill just because you have no idea where you're at, what's going on, and also plus like the jumps. I mean, not I want to say really jump scare, but like the fake transition. You think you're done with the ride for you to get that other 15 seconds of pure roller coaster. It's just a ride that really, really is great. It is so great that the IP has not been good for the past 20 years, and it's still something that they had to keep in the park just because they did such a good job with that ride. If this ride was any worse, I promise you money would already be gone. But since it's so good, they can live with this bad IP that is the Mummy franchise. Now, going into the top three here, we have Hagrid's. Now, I think this is the best family coaster because I do not consider the two above it to be better. Well, I guess I can change that to the best family ride. I think because of how just because of how like it stays on a straight line most of the ride. It really does not have any points of the ride where you're really flipped around, bending, doing any like curls. You're not doing any loopy loops. You're not doing any of that stuff. So I feel like that really allows it to emphasize being a family ride. Now I will say it is a bit intense for a family ride. It goes really fast, plus has a dead drop. But I feel like that's something where it's manageable. You know, this is a ride where I feel like nothing will be as filling sometimes as getting on a ride that you're scared. And this is something that I feel like is perfect for those type of people. It's not something that is too bad when it really comes down to it. I feel like this ride is really good when it comes to that aspect. It's fast, yeah, I can understand that, but a lot of people have ridden cars, they've driven a motorcycle before. It's not something where I would say that it's really a problem for this ride is the speed element of it. Like I said before, it doesn't really twist that much, so you don't feel your body like wanting to get out of the seat. So I will say this is the best family ride for that. Plus, like not explaining that it's amazing ride, fast, story element, great. Like this is the best ride where if you just want a ride that's gonna be thrilling but chill, this is the best thing you can get for now. Now going on here to Stardust Races, the newest roller coaster. I think when I was placing these rankings, I you know what one is. It was really one, and then what's two. But the more I thought about it, I was really like, it's one and two, and then what's three? Because I feel like this ride is the only thing that I have been ridden that has really truly matched up to the number one ride on this list. I feel like it's something where the elements of this ride are just fantastic. The dual racing element, something great. The speed you pick up, amazing. Like when you hit the second launch, this is when the ride really gets home for me. You know, you're able to hit these elements, you pick up the speed, and you're really able to really be immersed in like this immersive opportunity of you on a comet racing another comet through the celestial skies. Now that sounds a little weird, but you know, you go with it because of how thrilling this ride actually is. You know, I will say this is probably one of the most beautiful rides at night too. You know, witnessing it at night, I feel like it's probably one of the best things to ride it at. I will say that it has had its concerns, well, with itself with the ride, you know, but I feel like this is a ride that is just it's that and Velocicoaster. I don't think you see it any other way. Plus, you get two in one basically. You know, if you read the one side the first time, you got to read the other side the next time. They both have different aspects to it. See, I will say that that is the best ride at Epic Universe, thrill-wise for sure. In my personal opinion, is the best ride. If I want to ride any ride, I would probably pick Stardust. Now, going on to numero uno, the one, the only Velocicoaster. This ride is just so great, man. Like this is it's just a fun time all around. You know, I think what really makes it sometimes out of its own league is the smoothness of this ride. Like Hulk, all these other thrill rides, you'll get off and you're feeling some type of way. But Velocicoaster is the smoothest ride I've ever been on when it comes to how fast it goes. Plus, not to mention that it just has so many great climaxes. The initial part is so great just because you're thinking about this drop right here. You're thinking about it that you forget how fast you're actually going within that initial part, and then the drop, amazing. This second little part of the ride, the fully going upside down here, amazing aspects of the ride. You pick up the same speed throughout the entire ride, and you really feel this immersion. It's beautiful. This Mosasaurus roll, amazing. Like I really can't state how great this ride is. If you've never ridden it before, you have to ride it. Even if you're scared of roller coasters, I promise you, it's the smoothest ride. It does not feel something that it should be scary or something like that. I appreciate you guys for watching. That was me ranking all the rides. I really appreciate if you guys like and subscribe. If you stayed all the way to the end, I love you. Thank you, man. I'll give you a hug virtually. But I appreciate you for watching. Tune in for more Beangas. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the goal. He can't catch us all good, though. Yeah.